I'm Josh, I'm an investment actuary, and here are the 20 books that changed my life. So book number 1 is Atomic Habits, and the 2 key things I took from this book was 1, your environment affects how you behave, and 2, that just showing up is enough. You don't have to be perfect every single time. So I put those 2 actions to work primarily through my exercise routine, which I did prior to YouTube, and I'm now putting that to work in my YouTube channel. The second book that changed my life is Get Smart by Brian Tracy. This book taught me all about the importance of goal setting and thinking big with those goals. So it should be a sufficiently long-term goal, and it should be sufficiently stretching. The third book that changed my life is Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Goleman. This is a really difficult book, but it taught me all about the cognitive biases that we have, and having been trained in neoclassical economics, which assumes we're all homogeneous rational agents, I found it really interesting to hear about all the things that we do that aren't necessarily rational, and this is very well documented. There are easier books on this out there, but this is the original. And so, as it says on the front, this is a lifetime's worth of wisdom. The fourth book that changed my life is Think Again by Adam Grant, and this book taught me that I don't know what I don't know. And as a very arrogant 30-something-year-old, as a qualified actuary and a mathematician and someone who, was pretty well educated, I needed to hear that I didn't know what I don't know, and also the fact that knowledge turns over relatively frequently. So if you knew something to be true 10 years ago, that might not be true. So it's important to keep revisiting and keep learning. The fifth book that changed my life is The 5 AM Club by Robin Sharma, and this basically gave me the perfect daily routine. So it's quite an odd book. It's written in kind of a story format, but towards the end of the book, Robin gives you what I would say is a perfect morning routine starting at 5 AM, but you could start it at 6 if you really wanted to, and it gives you a perfect wind down routine as well, which is something that I've implemented to be able to get up at 5 AM. And even if you're not content with that, he gives you a full daily routine to stick by, and I absolutely love this because I kind of had this anxiety about what I should be doing on a daily basis, and he gives it all to you in this book. So yeah, I wish I'd read this earlier. It completely changed my life because I immediately implemented his suggestions, and I think a lot of the kind of guidance and information he provides on morning routines and evening routines actually are very modern, very up to date. The other interesting thing about this book is I would say the routines are completely up to date. So if you watch YouTube about daily routines, or if you listen to podcasts about daily routines, they're typically not saying anything different to what Robin's saying in this book. He works off all of the most up-to-date research and incorporates it seamlessly. So yeah, I think this is absolute gold, and it took me forever to read it because I kind of judged it by its cover. The sixth book that changed my life is Mindsight by Daniel Goleman. This taught me all about the brain and the different parts of the brain and why we need them all to work together as an integrated whole, and what happens if things aren't working properly. So yeah, really interesting to kind of learn a bit about neuroscience and basically how we can use it to affect our behavior and emotions. The seventh book that changed my life is Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, and this is the Bible. Everyone still talks about it. He basically teaches you the difference between an asset and a liability, and then just talks through all the middle class traps that everyone falls into. And once you hear it from him in such a blunt way, it makes you realize that what you've been doing doesn't make sense. So yeah, really good book. I would say the way this changed my life is I assumed because I had followed this kind of formulaic path, I kind of deserved a good career or a good wage, or I deserved to be wealthy, but he kind of highlights that there are many other ways to get to that point, and actually the less beaten track is probably the easiest way to get there. And he talks about financial education, which is something that we really didn't get at school. So yeah, changed my life. The eighth book that changed my life is The 4 Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss, and the main thing I took away from this is how to be effective and how we spend a lot of time just doing things that aren't actually that useful. So I immediately implemented a lot of suggestions from this book, including how I organize my work calendar, make sure I batch things for efficiency, and then just felt less guilty about not doing some pointless things in my life, basically. So yeah, that completely changed my life as well. I now have awesome big free blocks in my calendar because I just batch all the meetings, and that's just a great feeling. The ninth book that completely changed my life is The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. Love Morgan Housel. His other book is brilliant as well, same as ever. But yeah, I just always was quite ashamed of the way I dealt with my own money, and I thought I was doing something wrong because I knew it was so easy. You just have to, not spend and not buy things. But he kind of explains how money is a very psychological and personal thing, and the way people deal with it is all based on their own internal mental models around money that is typically due to their upbringing and their environment. So I really needed to hear this, and it kind of gave me some, not excuses, but reasons as to why I was behaving the way I did, and kind of paved the way and kind of removed that shame and paved a path forward. So yeah, love this book. Book number 10 that changed my life is Less Doing and More Living by Ari Meisel. So this book taught me all about outsourcing, essentially. Just outsource everything you can. I've applied this to work where I'm just trying to outsource any tasks possible, that frees up my time for kind of the things that are more impactful. And obviously in my personal life, I do quite a lot of outsourcing as well. So yeah, it taught me all about outsourcing. The 11th book that changed my life is called How to Decide by Annie Duke. I think she was a professional poker player, but she taught me the importance of taking as many viewpoints as possible when about to make a decision, particularly the one that conflicts with your own internal beliefs. So she called it the outside view, and that's something I've always sought when making decisions, particularly in my investment career. I've always loved to hear the kind of counter case or the outside view on what's going to happen. The 12th book that changed my life is Beyond Order by Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson, quite a controversial figure, but this book really gave me, I would say it really resonated because a lot of the things he said was things I've experienced but no one's ever told me about. So I think I work and live in quite a conservative environment, and that's what he's essentially describing in his book. So he gave me some good actionable tips that I can use in that environment to help me survive and do better. So I particularly liked, just say what you want. So if you want something, just go and say it out loud, because that way you're taking action and other people know about it. Just keeping it to yourself, it's really dumb and getting upset about it. Another thing I took from it is how important it is to have traditions, and they mean something, so we shouldn't degrade them. And I've definitely seen more and more as I get older the importance of doing things around Christmas time or Easter, just to get the family together and get some sort of cadence going to the year. I also took from this that cynicism is stupid, and that's something Robert Greene talks about as well in his book Mastery. Yeah, I think at times cynicism or being a cynic can become quite enticing, particularly when the world's beating you down quite a bit. You kind of reject it and then pretend you don't want to take part in the world. But he highlights that this is just, in the long run, not productive. So yeah, really changed my life, that Jordan Peterson book. I also took away from it, I don't know if it's that book or his other book about chaos, or just how important it is to make sure your day-to-day is actually nice and what you enjoy, because that's what could be making you miserable. Book number 13 that changed my life is quite an interesting one. It's not one I would have picked up naturally, but it's called The Power of Intention by Wayne Dyer. And prior to my adventures into reading, I was not a very spiritual person, I would say. I didn't even believe in this idea of the subconscious mind. I thought that was all kind of nonsense. But yeah, in this book, The Power of Intention, I kind of forced myself through it, and actually I really liked it and now have become a keen user in his methods. So he taught me, or my main takeaway from the book was about taking the time in solitude to listen to your intention, i.e. what you actually want to do, and then go and take that action. So rather than just doing things all the time, rushing around, reacting, take the time to step away and listen to your kind of inner self, your subconscious, and see what you're actually intending to do or what your intentions are. So yeah, that's an interesting one. Number 14 is The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson, and he talks about how these tiny wins can compound into big wins over the long term. So it's really important to make sure you're doing positive things in the short term and also not doing as many negative things in the short term. So yeah, one of my takeaways from that was to try and eliminate as many of the negative things from my life as possible so they don't hold me back. The 15th book that changed my life is Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. Now, this book is, the book on why we should favor emotional intelligence over IQ. I'm not actually sure what IQ means. But yeah, basically IQ is not the best predictor for success. Actually, in business and in the world, EQ is more important, and that's because, we live and work and, operate in social systems, and the way you operate in social systems is through emotional intelligence, ultimately, not cognitive intelligence. You can't typically IQ your way through society. So yeah, this is the book on emotional intelligence and why it's so important. So yeah, my main takeaway for life actually from this was to basically focus a bit more on emotional intelligence and become more emotional intelligent and try and hone that as a skill. And I've definitely put that to practice in my day-to-day, just trying to be more emotionally available. The 16th book that changed my life is called The Greatest Secret of All by Marc Allen, and this is basically a book on manifestation. And again, I was skeptical of manifestation prior to my reading journey, but yeah, this book definitely makes sense to me. It's about being positive, it's about thinking about what you actually want and telling yourself a soothing story about the fact that it's coming and there's no need to worry and you're doing all the right things. So I'd say it's about improving that kind of, it's about setting big goals at the end of the day and then also telling yourself that it's all happening, so there's no need to worry. The 17th book that changed my life is Feel Good Productivity by Ali Abdaal. There are lots of productivity books out there, but I think his is the best. I love the approach he's taken to the book and the fact that it should feel good, which is one of my life mottos as well. Like, there's no point in just suffering your way through life. You want to enjoy your life. So yeah, his book was absolutely fantastic, and he's obviously had a massive influence on me starting a YouTube channel and just putting my work out there. So yeah, that book definitely changed my life, and he's changed my life probably more than anyone. Book number 18 is The Law of Success by Napoleon Hill, and you've probably heard of Napoleon Hill. He wrote the book Think and Grow Rich, but his laws of success I think are really useful, and I wish I'd read that. Basically, I feel like it should be the starting material for when you enter the work world, because it just talks about how you should operate in the work world and all the things that can draw you benefit. Obviously it's ancient now, so some of the things are a bit out of date, but I just wish I'd had this when I started out at work. Really wish I'd had it. One of the things that resonated with me the most is that you should do more than what you're paid to do. And that's one of the things I kind of implemented at the start of my work career, where I think I read something on the internet which basically just said, just focus on adding value until you're 30. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll do that. So yeah, I focused on adding value. I didn't really focus on my salary. I didn't really focus on like moving around. I just focused on, you know, developing myself and trying to add as much value to the people around me as possible. And I think that actually it was a really good tip that I got from the internet and further ratified in Napoleon Hill's book. So yeah, there's loads of principles in that book, all fascinating, but that's the one I resonated with most. And did it change my life? No, because I was already doing it. What changed my life from there? The importance of saving, I think I took from there. Yeah, not being, you know, too, you know, fast and loose with cash. And then book number 19 that changed my life is The 80-20 Principle by Richard Koch. Yeah, this book is absolutely incredible. It's the Bible on effectiveness, and I immediately implemented all of his suggestions. He talks about how to apply the 80-20 principle in all different walks of life, and I think I applied them all. But yeah, the idea, like even for happiness, he's saying like 20% of the things you do are probably the things that make you happy, so just focus on those and get rid of all the things that don't make you happy. So yeah, immediately implemented everything from this book, and it all worked fantastically, I would say. So yeah, 20 principle. The 20th book that changed my life is The 4-Hour Body by Tim Ferriss. Tim Ferriss, obviously there's 2 books in this list from him. He completely changed my life in multiple ways. I think because our beliefs kind of align, but anyway, 4-Hour Body, what I took from that was a slow carb diet. I immediately implemented it, and yeah, the weight kind of fell off. So really appreciate that. Yeah, the book is full of all sorts of little tips and tricks, which I've applied. The cold plunges are kind of highlighted in there, and the fact that we don't actually need to do as much exercise as we think we do. So there we have it. There are the 20 books that changed my life. Interestingly, this list has come from the website Blinkist. I don't know if you know Blinkist, but they are a book summary website, and they actually put a list down on their website, or I think it popped up on an advertisement to me saying real men should read this, and had essentially this list of books. And I made a note of it and started to make my way through it, and yeah, it completely changed my life. I think it really shows the benefit of having a list and just working your way through it. So not just reacting to your, you know, what looks good or what you think you're interested in, because if you force yourself into areas or to read into areas that conflict with your initial beliefs, or you think you know it all, but you might find out things that you don't know, i.e. going back to that Adam Grant book, You Don't Know What You Don't Know. I think it's so important to go into areas that might conflict with your beliefs, or you might not be interested in initially, because that's typically where the things you don't know lie. So examples for that within this list are all the spiritual type books, and I think money as well. Because I wasn't qualified actuary, I felt like I knew it all, but that was a really dumb thing for me to do as well, because it's very different being qualified actuary and then talking about personal finances. So yeah, there we have it. That's my top 20 list. If you want to hear more from me, don't forget to check out this one here.